And welcome Pastor Jeremy as he comes to bring the word today. Yes.
All right, all right. I'm going to come out of Isaiah 40 today. I'm not going to do much preaching. I really just kind of want to build a picture, a visual, perhaps a way that we can relate to some of the things that we are dealing with in our life that we don't know how to understand. I mean, how much easier would it be to fight the good fight of faith if you actually knew what you were fighting? Sometimes it seems like I'm fighting things that I don't even know what I'm dealing with. So I think it's me. You ever felt like that? It's like, well, it must be me. I don't know what else it could be. So you kind of beat your own self up because you don't know what you're dealing with. Just going to do a real short scripture reference today out of Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. It's a very familiar passage. They that wait upon the Lord, their strength, they shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run. Hey, that's what it says. And I got to doing a little studying on eagles. Fascinating creature. There's actually a lot to learn about an eagle. I mean, like, for instance, if you're driving down the road and you see a couple buzzards sitting out in the field, you don't really think much about it. Oh, there's some buzzards, and you keep right on going. However, my wife and I a few weeks ago on the way to church was driving between Seneca and Wyandotte, look out in the hayfield next to the railroad tracks, and there's two bald eagles sitting out in the field. Now that makes for good conversation. Why? Because it's eagles. I don't know why, but eagles are worth talking about. Nobody talks about buzzards, blackbirds, crows, hawks. Nobody says nothing, but if you drive past an eagle, everybody's grabbing their phone, trying to get their camera to pull up. An eagle, an eagle. It's a fascinating bird. In fact, it is our country's symbol, is an eagle. As far as a national way of looking at it, I know an eagle has a very, very close place in my family's heart, especially with my parents, because when my dad had evangelized and was preaching the gospel all over the world, he became known as the eagle. Now that's cool. I don't care who you are. You walking out on the stage, all these people chanting the eagle. Man, that must have been cool. And eagles are huge. They have a wingspan of one wing when fully grown can be 9 feet long with one wing. Now that's almost as high as a basketball goal. That's 10 feet. So two of them's 18 feet. That's longer than most people's car. That's how big they get. But did you know that the egg of an eagle is only 2 inches around? Now, this is a chicken egg because I couldn't find any eagle eggs at Walmart. Must have been sold out and they're getting kind of pricey. But I mean, if you think about it, a chicken is a fraction of the size of an eagle. And yet their egg is the same size. It's very small for what the eagle is ultimately going to become. Despise not the days of small beginnings. What you start out as has nothing to do with what you're going to turn out to be. Okay? Don't let people measure you at your point of entry. I said, don't let people measure you at your point of entry. Because out of a small thing, something great is going to come. But you're going to have to hatch it. Now see, in order for an eagle to grow to the point that it can break out of its outer shell, there is this excruciating, grueling process that is involved. Now we're going to get the microscope out and we're going to zoom in and take a look. In the process of going through it, not only is the eagle developing tissue, bones, muscle, and things like that, there's also something else that's developing in there that people don't realize that it's developing. And it's called an egg tooth. An egg tooth. See, in order for an eagle to grow to the point that it can break out of its outer shell, it has to develop an egg tooth. And an egg tooth is what is developed while it's still in the shell. It's still in the egg, so that it can develop a hardness. That's where it has to mature to. This egg tooth must begin to harden. And the harder the shell, the harder the egg tooth must be. Jeremy, what are you saying? Well, what I'm saying is that until the thing on the inside becomes stronger than the thing on the outside, there will be no breakthrough. That's what I'm trying to say. What's on the inside must become stronger than what's on the outside, or there will be no breakthrough. Now, I know some people hold on to that outside hard thing because it's safe. So you hold on to your shell. It's kept you alive. It's kept you safe, protected, shielded, guarded. The problem is, if you don't break out of it, it's going to kill you. So this one egg tooth is very important that it develops, because its primary purpose is to equip this hopeful eagle to break through the shell. But before it breaks through the shell, there's another interesting factor going on in here. There is a spot inside there. There is a membrane, a tissue inside this shell. So that when this egg tooth develops to the point that it's needing to develop to, it will puncture this sac inside. And he gets his first breath of air while inside the shell. Look at it like this. Anything that you are going to develop has to be developed in a way that's not only hidden from the outside, but is still insulated behind a barrier. However, when the thing on the inside starts becoming bigger than the thing on the outside, that can become very frustrating. It's claustrophobic in here. It's so tight. I can't move. I can't turn. I can't roll. I'm running out of room. I had finally caught a breath and now it's running out. Have you ever felt that way before? And yet, there is absolutely no sign at all on the outside that the mother eagle is doing a darn thing to help. No signs at all. All the mama eagle can do is sit. Could you imagine? What would be going through her mind? Man, I hope this is working. I hope my love is enough. I hope my sitting is enough. I hope my giving is working. I hope my teaching is working. I wonder, maybe I should peck the shell and crack it. But the mama eagle can only sit and trust that the process is going to work. It's a lot like mentoring. See, when you start developing someone, and you're doing the best you can to try to create and to put them into this warm and safe environment so they can grow. But it's a challenge when you don't see any progress. Especially in the beginning. But I'm going to tell you, we can't grow weary in well-doing. Because if you grow weary in well-doing, then you're going to miss your blessing. If you give up because you don't see movement, you're going to miss your blessing. Don't go after something that you're not willing to sit on. Don't be going out and starting a new business if you ain't willing to sit on it. Don't be going off and getting married if you don't want to be a wife. And there's no need in having a baby if you ain't wanting to raise it neither. Before you go down that road, investigate. You better take your time to investigate how much sitting it takes. Because mentoring is sitting on something until it hatches. Greatness has to be hatched. Greatness does not go on sale. You are not going to be able to wait and find greatness on a clearance rack. Greatness costs what it costs. All right, back to this egg tooth thing. This is interesting. When the egg tooth gets hard, and it starts to break through that inner sac, and this potential eagle catches his breath, even though it is still trapped inside a shell. And the egg tooth's getting harder, but here's the thing. Now it's a race. It's a race between how quickly it's growing and how quickly the egg tooth is developing. Because the egg tooth has to develop before he runs out of room or air. So the race is on. You know, we should thank God for every door that's ever closed in our life. For every person that rejected you. Every person who made fun of you. Every one of those people that laughed at you, because they helped you develop an egg tooth. See, they made you fight when you had no fight. They made you hard where you were soft. They made you tough where you was weak. They forced you to move forward when you were encased in fear. You got an egg tooth through the things that you suffered. Yes, see, you don't get an egg tooth through the things that went right. You get an egg tooth through all the things that went wrong. I mean, I know that I don't amount to a whole lot right now. Because right now, all I can do is survive in this encasement. And I know that this encasement was for my protection. I know that. But my protection is starting to become a problem. Remember this. What God sends at one stage as protection will become a problem at another stage. I'm just going to say it again. What God sends at one stage as a protection will become a problem at another stage. You remember when God, He had to send Jacob and his sons to Egypt to survive the famine? Remember the famine was coming? They was going to die. They had to go to Egypt. I mean, they didn't know Joseph was there or nothing, but they went, and it was a blessing. Wow! Like homecoming parade, they go, and it was a blessing. But after enough time had went by, the Egyptians had enslaved them. You remember how Egypt had all the Israelites were slaves? That's why they were slaves. They stayed in Egypt too long. Now they're slaves. See, but first it was a blessing. Anytime you stay at one stage too long, it creates a problem. See, life is a series of breaking through. What once was a blessing, and now that blessing has become a burden. It is a series of breaking through. What once was a blessing, but has now become a burden. So now you have to have the courage to see what's going to be in the next dimension of your life. Now the potential eagle, he's pecking his way out of what has now become a problem. It used to be a safe thing, and now it's not a safe thing anymore. Now it's trying to kill it. But what used to be a safe place has now become a problem. So the egg tooth begins to scratch the inside of the shell. At first, it ain't breaking through. It's just making a little tiny dent in it. That's all. Just a little scratch. But remember, when you get discouraged and the breakthrough hasn't happened yet, but you are making a dent in it. You are making a dent. It hasn't cracked yet, but you're making a dent. I'm talking about process. I'm talking about mentoring. I'm talking about development, growth. I'm talking about becoming. I'm talking about putting a dent in your marriage. I'm talking about putting a dent in your life. And if you get frustrated and you quit while you're still in the process, then you're not going to get the promise. The Word actually says that after you have suffered a while, God will bless you. Even though you haven't gotten the breakthrough, keep scratching the inner wall of that shell. It's making a little dent, and it's starting to weaken the very thing that is stopping you from moving forward. And I actually really want to release all of the believers that hear me from the guilt and the shame and the discouragement and the doubt that you have had because you were trying to hatch something that just doesn't seem to be growing. Because one of the hardest things to sit through is when the eagle can do nothing for the baby. All she can do is sit on it. That's it. The potential eagle has to crack through the shell on its own. You cannot take on that responsibility of cracking the shell for them. The fact that they're not breaking through does not mean that you are not a good mentor. Mentoring people, that's not necessarily fighting their battles for them. That's not mean that you're supposed to be solving their problems for them. Mentoring doesn't mean you're fixing their issues. It's just putting them into an environment where they can grow and get their egg tooth so that they can make their own dent. All right, one more thing. Don't be afraid to change while you're still confined in your shell. Don't be afraid to change. I know that if the Lord is going to confine me somewhere, I'm still going to do everything I can to keep growing while I'm confined. I'm going to be reading, I'm going to be studying, I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to be asking questions, I'm going to be watching, I'm going to be observing, I'm going to be growing while I'm confined. Don't be afraid to change while you're confined. It's not just that you're growing the business, but the business is also growing you. And it's not just that you're growing the marriage, but the marriage is growing you. And it's not just that you're raising the children, but the children are also raising you. Man. You know, you have to become a good mother. You don't get to start out as a good mother. You become a good mother. That's some work and some effort and some trials and some error. I don't know what to do. The baby got a marble in his nose. What am I supposed to do? How do you get it out? I mean, there's growing things. Things you have to learn and figure out. You become a good wife. You become a good husband. Ain't very many people start out just being a good husband and a good wife. There is a lot of effort involved. A lot of effort involved. I love you, baby. You've got to be willing to change, because what if God is sitting on you? What if He's sitting on you? You feeling it? You feeling the pressure? Why does the pressure keep growing? What is this pressure? You keep looking at your spouse. You're like looking at your kids, looking at your job, looking at your checkbook. You're looking at everything going on. You're feeling all this pressure, and you're trying to observe everything from the outside. What if He's just sitting on you, getting you ready to crack the shell to the next phase of your life? What if? I don't know. What if? Because you're going to go through changes if He's sitting on you. I'll guarantee it. You're going to do some development. Because greatness has to be hatched. You ain't going to be able to start out flying like mama is. You've got to go through changes, all kind of metamorphosis and rearrangements and reorganize and struggles and embarrassments. You're going to have to cry sometimes. And you're going to have to hurt sometimes. And you're going to have to go to bed wanting to quit sometimes. And you're going to feel like you're dying sometimes. And you're going to be dealing with depression sometimes. And you're going to be scared sometimes and worried sometimes. Because see, what you're breaking into does not look like what you're breaking out from. Let me try that one more time. What you are breaking into does not look like what you are breaking out from. It doesn't look the same out here as it does in there.
Praise the Lord.
When you go to the next dimension, something to remember, don't be bringing your old rules with you. Okay? Don't be bringing your old stuff into the new dimension with you. Don't do it. Don't do it. You can't be bringing your old into your new, or you're going to be right back into your old. Come on. It's just the way it works. I don't care how smart you are. Your smart then may not be a good smart now. See, what worked in the egg isn't going to work in the nest. What worked in here ain't going to work out there. I'm trying to say is life is a series of birthings. That's what it is. That's what it's been for me. It's a series of birthings. You're going to get hatched more than one time. You want to keep pressing into the Lord and moving on, you're going to hit another hatching. It's just the way it goes. The egg started out in the mama. It got birthed out into the nest. And once the baby fights its way out, it goes from being in the egg to now being in the nest. See it? None of it comes to stay. Okay? None of it comes to stay. All of it comes to pass. Everything in your life is a process of birthings. And if the baby cannot say goodbye to the shell, it's never going to get to discover the nest.